This is Warriors Anonymous.
Oh dear. Well, the depressed fish is back and he's multiplied. Oh, the Warriors. They went to Vegas and they didn't do too well, did they? Welcome back to the podcast. We were all full of, early season hope last year or last week. It felt like a year ago. Oh my God. We've got, first of all, we'll bring in Isaac first to explain his current attire and his friends there. Isaac, are you as depressed as your mates look?
Well, this is Hang You Don. He's a famous Hello Kitty character, but I also like to think of him as James Fisher Harris because fish. Get it? And he's probably got the same face right now as well, coming to the Warriors like, what have I done? What have I done?
Yeah, I saw a good meme with him, saying that you ain't in Penrith anymore, Toto. So,
Yeah.
oh dear.
Welcome to the Wires.
That's right, and welcome to the roller coaster. The season 2025, Daniel, we kind of almost the words from last week kind of haunted me. Not as we were on the podcast, but as we were like leaving the session, we were like, oh, we're full of preseason hope and that. We'll see what happens. And it seemed like the balloon got popped pretty quickly in Vegas.
Yeah, maybe the Vegas thing kind of just made it all like shiny and like, dazzling. And then we kind of got to kick off. And then, about 20 minutes into it, I was like, oh, no. No. Just we lost all the pizzazz. We just didn't have any fight. It was boys versus men, I think.
Yeah.
So, but I hear the trip was amazing and it looked amazing. And the social media looked amazing. The videos I was getting sent at would have been 1 a.m. in Vegas time of people partying in clubs with their Wires gears looked pretty cool. So, yeah. I mean, depending if you'll get there to watch a rugby league game, if you're there to have a great 48 hours or 3 days, then it sounds like a blast.
Yeah, it really did look like a massive week for a lot of the people who had gone over, and then to sort of have the crescendo at the end with the Warrior Nation. Saw our mate Richie on stage with Savage there at halftime, having a good old cunny, and yeah, a bunch of the Warrior Nation folks there as well, just getting amongst it. So I guess other than the game itself. Everything else looked great, and I've got to say we did represent as well. Like there was multitudes of Warriors fans over there, so lots of credit to all of them. Just sort of sorry that they had to just finish it off in that sort of way.
We were backing the Wigan Warriors, right? That's the Wigan Warriors podcast.
Oh, that's exactly right. Yeah,
Wigan Anonymous. Yeah, right. Wigan Warriors Anonymous.
Before we even get into a few more points, I forgot to mention as well, just off the top, we've got our Warriors Anonymous online stores open now. Where you can get gears like these. That's at warriorsanonymous.co.nz and warriorsanonymous.com.au, depending on where you are. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, you probably see a bunch of our products just popping up on the screen as well. So that is those are legit. They're to do with us. So if you see them pop up there, then get amongst and get the whole whānau dressed up. It's not quite as well dressed as Isaac is on this particular episode, but anyways, lads, I'm going to ask a hard or nah question to get things underway, and that is maybe a question that's probably been bugging me for the last 24 odd hours, and that is, was this performance a slip up by us, or is this just us for 2025? We'll start with you, Isaac. I don't
know. I'm going to say this is us. I want to think differently. I want to think differently. But if I'm being honest with myself, this is us. Because if you're not going to put in the effort in the season opener in Vegas, where your favorites to win the game, not by much, but your favorites, and you do that, I mean, if you can't get out of bed for a game like that, then the rest of the season's going to be a long season.
Yeah, I hear you, bro. I hear you. Even as you were talking there, if you can't get up for a game in Vegas, I started to get a little bit angry just thinking about it. But hard on our bro, is this us?
No. Nah. So, yeah, not ideal, not great, but part of me thinks that whole fail fast mentality, you better to find out now. You're better to find out that maybe what you're thinking about, what you're going into, is not going to cut it in the NRL, in this current year of the NRL. Look, it's only one game, but I think that as we dive into it, we're probably, I think, and this is a big risk maneuver, and whether we make 8 or not, but I think the second part of the season hopefully will be a better product from the team. But I think a lot of that will be the fact that Webby will just go youth. He'll go strong, dynamic, young players and just go, do we want to be a dominant team in 3 years' time? We need to do that now, rather than just be in kind of playing maybe some more of the senior sort of older chaps and just kind of nursing through seasons. You have them. Let's say if we have 3 or 4 bad results on the trot early on, you're going to have to change the game plan, and I think that's perhaps a precursor. Well, who knows? I mean, but you can't. Come on, Isaac, you can't just give up on us.
I give up.
The first round's not even complete. We've played 2 games in the first round.
Oh, it's just the way that they came out. They're like, from the get-go, they just didn't have anything. It was so sad to watch. It's like all those fans that went over there, sure, they would have gone over there for Vegas and had an awesome time and whatnot, but that was the icing on the cake to be there for a Wise game, and then they do that. It's like, fuck, I would have been out of there at halftime down at Caesar's Palace. Whatever. Just on the blackjack tables, all in on black.
To coin a famous quote, you have no marbles. That was our team. That was watching our bloody team with no friggin' marbles. Actually, I was going to go through a couple of things first of all, but Daniel, you brought up a good point. I'm going to ask you about it because you kind of touched on it a little bit. And that was the fact that we were bringing in, a sort of a new wave of excitement, not a completely new team, not a completely green team, but we did have a bit of excitement there. We had Ali starting, Tuopiki as well. And then we had a couple of lads on the bench in Vaimaunga and Halasema. But it was like we waited until like the last friggin' 20 minutes of the game before we even got them involved. So what on earth is happening with our bench and just trying to like get some energy going from it?
I think he's trying to use that as like late in the game changer to have some extremely fresh legs. And perhaps for those 2 in particular, they're not necessarily week in, week out NRL, 60-minute NRL quality standard players. And as in, we don't know it, right? We don't know the X's and O's, the kind of loads, all the little things as much as the coaching staff. But I think they are sort of holding on to this. These guys need to be match fit, but just able to operate at the pace. And I think it's defensively is the concern, is like, because we know New South Wales Cup love it as well, but sometimes it's you score, I score, you score, I score. NRL is tough and gritty. So I think that's perhaps maybe the reluctance to play them longer minutes. But I just compare that to watching the Raiders play, and we didn't really touch on it, but we kind of all knew in our heart and hearts the Raiders are like, they're just abrasive, like each to a man. And I think maybe Braith or Matty Johns mentioned, he said all of them have footwork, right? All of them are strong. And you could see it by the tackle count, the missed tackle count. They all can bust tackles. And then there's some just electric speed. And I then compared it to our guys, and it's like, it just didn't seem to be that dynamic and that strong. And then we lacked pace. as well. So yeah, so coming back to the point, I think at the moment he's trying to maybe protect those guys and maybe bring them late in the game, and maybe is that whole view that when we've played Canberra in the past, with weathered the storm for the first, I think you go back a couple of years, we were getting thrashed, not thrashed on the scoreboard, but beaten up in the first half, and we come back and we put 40 points on them and we overrun them. So I think maybe it might be the mentality is to keep those guys late, but for me, you could see there was some genuine fatigue in the game, and they jumped on us, and I was like, sorry, Miss Jackson Ford's been out there, he's tackled 800 times, and no wonder he's lazy at marker getting out. So there, I think, long story short, I think he's trying to protect them, but also trying to have a bit of a late sort of wind in the sail at the very end of the game. But the game was over by then.
The ship had sailed.
Indeed.
That's the thing. I don't know about that. If you've got players like that, if you can sense a lull, you can sense a lack of urgency, bring the young guys in. What have you got to lose? The tide is turning, so you've got to do something to arrest it and not just sort of try and get back into the grind, I think, because the grind wasn't working. So I would have liked to have seen them brought on some of those younger guys, even just one of them. I'm not saying you have to play both of them at the same time. At least one of them, just to bring a bit of energy, because everyone just seemed out on their feet. I'm tired of this. Oh, it's the best preseason we've ever had. It's like every fucking year. And in the first game, we always seem to be super gassed. It's like, you've got to just carte blanche, stop saying best preseason ever. I don't want to hear it anymore. Like, I'll be the judge of that when I watch the game. Then I'll be like, hey, they've been the best preseason ever. Because every time they say it, nah, doesn't seem like it.
That's right. I remember a Roger Federer speech after he won the Aussie Open, maybe in about 2003 or something like that. And they were like asking him, what sort of special training have you been doing to come through and look so good in this tournament? And he was like, no, I haven't really done anything. I just chase the kids around and that's about it. So maybe the Warriors need to adopt that sort of attitude and go, hey, we've just been smoking ciggies all summer, drinking beers, and haven't done anything. So
nothing to lose.
Absolutely, go old school. Now it was. I'm going to put it right up there with one of our worst, defeats. Just in terms of how it played out. The scoreboard wasn't, catastrophic, but it's in terms of what we brought in energy, considering the occasion, all that sort of thing. It was pretty bad. Daniel, I know that you sort of not long after the game were already sort of canvassing for the Sharkies to become your second team. So
whoa. People know that I have an affinity with the Sharks for some reason, and further enhanced by the beautiful meat eater that is come dance with me, Adam Vanilla Blake.
Yeah, geez, we missed him, didn't we? Oh my gosh. Even by half time, the wife said to me, 5 minutes to go. It was literally 5 minutes to go before the break. She goes, oh, who else can I support this year? I was like, it's not even we're not even 5 minutes to half time of the first game. But yeah, a big occasion. And from the Warriors, just a big old flop. Isaac, what's behind that? Is it all mental, do you think? What's up with the big occasions that we don't rise for?
I feel like it was an attitude thing. And I think we touched on the point of the hype that the Up the Wires movement has generated. I can't help but feel the players, the club, they buy into their own hype. It always feels like it. There's just so much like fantastic media coverage, social media content about the Warriors, and we're part of that machine as well. But I feel like they buy into it, and then they get to these games, and they've not got their head in the right place. It just, when no one gave them a chance that first season Webster was here, there wasn't really that much support out there, just under the radar, and they were just workmanlike in their wins, But now it feels like they have to be the hottest ticket in town, like they have to live up to that hype. But no one gives a fuck about the way they play if they win. I don't care how they win if they win. But yeah, they seem to be blown away by the big occasion because they're just buying into themselves and without doing the hard yards. Like that's how I feel. I could be wrong. I mean, behind the scenes, it seems like they might be doing a lot. But it's the hype machine. I don't get it, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of it either.
I think there's an element of that part, but I think tactically they just didn't start the game well. I think tactics weren't in place, so I was really bemused to not see a ball playing 13 start the game, and I think what that does is it doesn't give. It just makes our kind of our set really predictable. There's no kind of we noticed when Dylan Walker came on, right? He just started getting things moving. You've got holding people up in the middle, so there's spaces on the outsides, and Wade couldn't quite do that, I guess, in the first part. And maybe they thought that would be the case, but as soon as Dylan came on, then he could do that, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think Aaron, that's a role he can play, right? He's meant to be playing. I just think that probably was one of the things at the start that just didn't quite. I just felt we were losing the territory battle early on. They'd get out 45 metres, 50 metres of the kick, and we were getting to 20, 25 metres because we were getting smashed as well. So, tactically that obviously I thought didn't help. And then, I don't know, just watching... I'm trying to think back like what worked in last year because it was a smaller field. So, there was talk of actually flooding the middle, but then there was talk the middle would be congested, so you had to go wide. But I also thought, and I watched a little bit of the Sharks game, and I saw a couple of things that I really liked. And what the Raiders did is they just were able to kind of cut angles. Have whatever happened to putting a back rower in a half gap and letting him hit the line and like busting the tackle, getting a quick play the ball and going again. We just don't seem to want to play that anymore. We want to play them before, like at the back of the line. We don't want to play them into the line. And then every time we do play them into the line, we give them a shit ball and pops up in the end. We drop it. Right?
Hit somebody in the head.
But we just stopped, or even just cutting. Like there was just no kind of variation. It just felt quite one dimensional, and they were just wrapping us up, putting us down. And actually, to that point, combination of shit. They managed to get themselves into some pretty like hard to get out of places. It's like it happens every now and then, but man, some of the play the balls were just like sloppy. But for some reason, ref wasn't putting anything up as well. So I just think and someone's talked about kind of we'll talk about the halves, right? But I just think tactics weren't quite there too.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like we're playing pretty much exactly the same game plan we had last year, and we know it didn't work. So we've just replicated it. There was one good point I heard the commentators talking about, just in regards to young halves. The focal point for the attack really should be Wade Egan to give those guys like a bit of time and a bit of experience to do their thing. They should be running their attack as Wade Egan is the focal point. And he had a few good runs, but then he had no support as well. Like he was trying his darndest to put players into space, but there was no players alongside of him. But I thought that was a good point. I'd have to agree. Like, if you've got a young set of halves like CHT and Metcalf, then you've got to build the game plan maybe around a guy like Egan and then simplify it and let those two, the young halves, play the natural game. Because it felt like Metcalf's, obvious strength is his running, just like SJ was before him. And he was just a kicking machine. And they weren't even quality kicks. They're just putting it up there with a mediocre chase. It's just like, we're not going to win the game like this. And even there was an opportunity at one point, I remember there's a 4-on-1 on the right-hand side, on the short side, and Metcalf kicked it. Because I think he's just been told, like, this is the game plan. And I just like, fuck, there was a 4-on-1. Like, if he run it, it was on. But yeah, it just seems so predictable, the Warriors' attack, that it's just easy for a team like Canberra to pick up, even with their big forward pack who should generally get tired, but they didn't. Yeah,
I got to say, I received a nice little message from my brother-in-law, Dolly, big Canberra Raiders fan, and it said something very close to the effect of just ta-ta waz. I got to say that I thought the Raiders were really, really good. And it was a kind of a bit of a conflict in my own head. I'm like, how good were they and how awful were we? So trying to figure out the right sort of weightings from each of those scenarios, just had me sort of thinking a little bit. But Daniel, the on the halves, young fellas, have we got the right balance there with having Metcalf and Chanel, a couple of guys who are similar sort of age, and maybe not having an older head there, maybe like Timade and Martin?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably going to be the big talking point, the big debate, really. I think there's a couple of reasons actually dawned on me why they probably put CHT ahead. I think you've got the defensive component. We all know defensively, Chanel's fairly strong, right? Like probably on his day the best defensive half in the game. And I also think there's just an element of if Wade does go down, they know they can put him into hooker and they can use they can play Dylan Walker at 6. And I think as just a natural ball player when they've got Aaron Clark on there. So I think there's a little bit of the contingency stuff. But yeah, my concern is that maybe there's not enough like how would you put it? Enough natural footy IQ when it comes to playmaking. They kind of, and there's no disrespect to them. They're obviously clearly playmakers and they in theory know what they do, but I think they're not as natural as say Tamati can be. We know Tamati's problem is that Tamati hasn't necessarily like nailed that down as well. So I think we're going to see, a team that has non-established halves. We could see a new combination of 7-8 players played there this year, but maybe they're going to have to persevere. They need to give them confidence, right?
Yep.
So you're going to just have to give them that chance. But I think Matty Johns mentioned it as like they're both naturally running halves. Just make them run first. Just run first.
Yep.
Run, and then things open up as well. And it took a while, but then you started to see Chanel actually running, and it put the defense on notice a little bit. Maybe just change things up a little bit as well, because classically we got picked off, right? We just went wrap round block play, and I was a bit annoyed by that because it's like, guys, it's a real short space. Like you're not necessarily going to just always outstrip them for numbers, and we got picked off. So time will tell, but got to back them.
Yeah. It's their jobs to lose. It's that they get first crack at it. It's for them to lose or for them to keep.
How much patience do we show? I am keen, especially for Metcalf. I think he can definitely be the guy. It's just going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of confidence getting some runs on the board for him. I felt sorry that he picked the wrong option on that intercept. It was our mate Levon did a great breakdown on it on the Wires Up Instagram, just showing the play in slow motion and just summing it up and going, well, if he'd just gone short on that, we could have either A, gone to the next tackle, or B, potentially could have even just got it out to Roger unmarked. So, but yeah, I felt sorry for Luke on that, and I definitely do believe in him. But Isaac, this is a results-driven business, as they say. How much?
What, this podcast?
Be off the air by now. That's
So we're throwing we're gone.
yeah.
Clearly, it's results-driven. But how much leeway will he get, especially to be the guy?
He'll get the most out of the halves. Like they'll interchange, they'll chop and change the rest of the halves around him. But I don't know. He's getting a long leash, but I think he's getting a long leash for. I feel like Webster's trying to mold him into something maybe he's not. And you can say that he's young and inexperienced, but then you have guys that burst onto the scene last year, like Ethan Strange for Canberra, Lachlan Galvin, natural footy players, and they took off last year just playing their natural game. And, as a copycat league, maybe we should look to other teams and how they've succeeded with young halves like that, and maybe apply that to the way we use our halves. So Metcalf, just play heads up footy. You're going to fuck up, but we'd rather you fuck up having a crack. I would rather see him fuck up having a crack than just pulling the ball up and just being a halfback machine instead of playing heads up footy. But he'll get the longest leash, but I don't necessarily agree with it if they're just going to tell him to play this particular way. I don't think it works for the Waz. I really don't.
Well, yeah, and Webby's got an insurance policy, right? Like,
Yeah.
Tanner Boyd is the insurance policy, which I think all Warriors fans know that. How do we describe him? Like, he's never had a bad game against us. He's probably that kind of journeyman seven who can just do the. He kind of reminds me of Fogarty. Like,
Yes.
they just have the same kind of structure about their game, right? They're fit as fiddles generally when they play. They've got a solid kicking game, and they just know how to get people around the park. So, I mean, it's a tough gig, Seven. Like, the amount of shit Nico Hines gets, and he's like a well-established seven now, and they're still saying, "Can he run the team?" You know, so maybe some are just made to be seven, some are made to be sixes, and let them be sixes. But and actually, Jerome Law is going to have the same challenge this year.
Interesting to see that. Yeah,
It's not. I mean, you get the Nathan Clearys, you get the SJs to a point, right? And you get the Cooper Cronks of the world, but in JTs, but so many other halfbacks struggle, right? It's who would be a halfback?
Yeah, did right. Got to say, just a quick thought on Jamal Fogarty. I've felt this way for the last few years. The guy's just criminally underrated. He just does a solid job. He ends up getting a bunch of results for the Raiders. They obviously, I think they love him, but I don't know, the wider rugby league media never really sort of embraced him as such while they're worrying about everyone else. But
he doesn't have a bad game. He has good game, great game, and then he goes back to good. He's Mr. Consistent, eh?
Yeah.
But he's also not. I think Ricky doesn't expect him to do things that he can't do, right? Like, he doesn't push him outside his capability.
Yep.
And that's when you have a foil like Strange, right, who has got all that natural ability, strong, can run, and it was Jack Whiten before, right? Like, guys like that can just run and do flashy, amazing things. You don't always need that in a half. And that, to your point, where Metcalf's got that running and flash and ability to set, to quick and to get going and to break through and be the support guy as well. We might find out that actually just go back there.
Yeah.
Just go back there. Bring the other guy in. So
I know it's only one game, but I feel like I've seen enough that we're not making the most of his talents. And back to the point of Jamal Fogarty, not telling him to be running half. They're like, we know who you are, we know what you do. You stick to that to let Ethan Strange do what he does best. If it's Tanner Boyd or TMN, whichever one of those two can unlock Metcalf's potential is the question.
Yeah. Now, boys, we played on a what was publicised highly as a smaller field, but our defence was absolute trash. So now we're going to go out into a bigger field. In fact, the only real show of defensive intent was from our old mate Richie Agar at halftime. Bloody hell, he was the only one. He must have been pissed off, poor fella. And I can understand why, because we were watching the same and probably thinking the same as well. But what the hell happened with our defence? Isaac, we'll start with you, bro, and what can we do about it?
Canberra historically have had a massive forward pack for bloody years, and to Dan's point, maybe we thought we could have gotten to the grind with them, like weather the storm of their big forward pack, and then come back with our fitness in the second half. It looks like Canberra have done a lot of work in the preseason, and they look fit, and they used their talented forward pack to their advantage. Offloads, meters gained after contact, they were unstoppable. And after 20 minutes, the Warriors were just out on their feet and they had nothing left to give. So getting into the grind was out of the question. I just thought their forward pack was amazing. And I feel like Canberra are sort of following that blueprint now that we're starting to see with a lot of teams like Gold Coast, where they've got a reasonable sized forward pack, but they've also got like a really interesting spine. You know, the Keanu Kinneys of the world, the KO Weekses of the world, the smaller Tane Tuapiki type players that can unlock defenses. Like Canberra have got that sort of build to them. And it causes the Warriors like a lot of problems. I mean, case in point, the game against Gold Coast last year, they probably
Ooh.
might have watched a bit of tape on that and gone, that's
What
how
game?
we're going to
I've
play.
never seen that game.
But that was pretty much how Gold Coast played us last year as well. Their forwards tore us up, offloads, and then their electrifying backs just took over.
Yeah, I must admit I was also on that boat of getting some sort of trauma revisiting me from that game. Whilst watching the Raiders game, it was like, oh shit, here we go. But yeah, I guess we've got maybe the savior coming on board. Just after our podcast last week, the signing news of the one and only Morgan Harper. What do you think he could possibly offer for
Look,
the team?
I'm not going to put the boot in. Yeah, he's related to a cousin of mine, or cousin's partner, ex-partner of mine.
Hey.
But look, I think they saw an opportunity with some issues out wide to have just what you'd say is a recognised first grader who was obviously going to play cup. The reality is he probably ain't going to get a lot of game time in the top side, but if you've got an opportunity to pick up a season, experienced centre, someone who can play on the wing, then you got to bring it in. I think Warriors fans just said he had his best run, his best part of his career when he had the Jerry curl. So maybe we could start back and bring back Morgan Harper's Jerry curl.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, bring back Lionel Richie.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean,
Hall and Oates. Somebody else posted on the Warriors Anonymous page, Uncle Bully. And I'm sorry, that would crack me up. I was like, dead ringer. He looks like Uncle Bully.
yeah, with the short hair, he looks like Uncle Bully, and
Yeah,
then
with the short hair.
the long hair looks like Oates from Paul Notes. Problems, boys. We seem to have a bit of a bit of chat around the fullback spot. Now, interestingly enough, from the three of us last week, in our bold predictions, who would be playing at fullback on our final game of the season, none of us had Chance Nickel Klukster, and I wasn't really impressed, to be honest, with what he did on in the game. But yeah, Isaac, what's the go there? What are we thinking? We're probably a bit limited in terms of our outside back stocks. So, what would be your ideal plan for Chance?
I don't know. I think he just had one bad game, and I feel like the turning point of the game is when he went up for that high catch and he put his foot out and Horsburgh copped his foot. I feel like he got gun shy after that because somewhere down the track, high ball goes up. He would normally jump for it. He tried to do the fallback and he knocked it on try. I think that just dented his confidence. He's going to get a decent run at fullback for a long time. Again, it's his jersey to lose. He's earned it over the past few seasons. It's just time will tell whether Webster's run out of rope with him and decides to put Tuapiki at the back. But I don't blame him. Look, he's got runs on the board, Chance. Like for the past couple of years, he's been one of the better players for us, right? So he deserves to have to not worry about that jersey for a while.
And he certainly wasn't alone in terms of not playing great. But Daniel, I noticed that you've marked your initials here on the team weaknesses. What's your biggest worry for our side?
Well, I come back to that comment made early on, I guess, in comparison to what the Raiders bring, and you guys just talked about it, the Titans. I think the side that's set up, it just seemed to be a lack of pace, especially outside backs pace as well. I know we'll get a bit of pace back with Rocco Berry as well. We'll get Dallin's pace back, in his battering ram style. But yeah, there's for me, there's a little weakness there in comparison to, you think about some of the the elite sides, just other sides in the NRL. So that concerns me. I'm worried about some of our who've been solid performers over the last few years, but I'm actually a bit worried about guys like Marata Niokore, what he's producing, and I think we've talked a bit about this as maybe the edge role isn't a role now for him. Maybe and actually we probably need some more middle strength as well. So yeah, I think there's some weakness there. You can't have Barney and Fisher Harris. They're not like Adden, right? Where Adden went forward. They go forward, but they don't go Adden forward, right? And I think you missed that. I think you could have added another 15 meters to our whole sets if we had an Adden playing this week. So we're going to need some more strike in the middle. And I'm just a bit concerned with. I'm a little bit concerned in the hooker role. I think, I don't know, I just saw that Sam Healy presence and a bit of spark, and I saw what's his name who actually started this week, right? The Raiders guy, and they had a bit more zip out. But I love Wade Egan. I love his style, but I think Wade Egan needs the forward pack to be rolling forward. I mean, all teams, they need to win ruck speed, right? Like you win the ruck, you win the game. But I was just a bit concerned about I guess a cameo 20 minutes of having a play like a Sammy Healy coming in and really putting the pressure in the middle as well. So that kind of things were I could identify early on that concerned me. But I think there's some solutions, but they are towards the young guys as well. That maybe we need to grow and build up throughout the season. That could be the answer to that.
It's good that we've got the weekend off. I'm appreciative of that. It's been a long season already. But what are we looking at? Isaac, we'll start with you, bro. What are we going to do personnel wise for the game to take on Manly? What are you thinking there?
Oh, first of all, what a game to follow. What we've just seen against Manly, who are a bit of a bogey team for us too. So I'm like, they're a talented team. I don't honestly know what the makeup of the team is going to be for this game. Dan's point, Marata Niokore, get him off the edge. I'm sorry. He was touted as one of the big signings that we had, and I don't think he's lived up to his price tag at all.
Nope.
He looks really, low in confidence. I don't know why. Put him in the middle where he doesn't have to think much. He's just got one job, card it up, work hard in defence. But to the point of how the team looks, the makeup of it, I don't know.
What about the 13 jumper? Who starts in 13 in week 2?
Dills has to, I don't know how many of you guys watched the Penrith game afterwards, but the amount of work that a guy like Isaiah Yeo gets through, not just with ball in hand, but by distributing it, that's a role that Dylan Moore can play, and that's what he was doing when he was on the field. He needs to be starting, and arguably, if he can put players into right spaces, we're going to get a bit more go forward. No idea why he wasn't starting in that jersey in the first place.
Yeah. Even if he doesn't start, I think Clark starts. I think you just need to have one. You need to have one of them filling the 13 role for the entire game.
Yeah.
And I think, defensively it might have been a slightly stronger, or I don't know. Was it the old kind of Bunty trick, right? Like where they just put, they just used to play Bunty 20 minutes at the start.
20 minutes,
Just
weather the storm, eh? Yeah.
So they did that. They were doing that for Jackson Ford. I don't know, but I think it got us in the end because we had Tohu, right? So our attacking shape looks a bit different. So I don't mind Aaron or Dylan. I think they don't necessarily need to have a Ball Brothers approach, right? Although it was nice to see both two angry little dudes in the context of middle forwards
Actually,
get out there because they're both yappy and scrappy.
Yeah.
as well. But there will be natural crossover for them because I think the guys that got to play 60 minutes
Yeah.
as well. All those four have to play 60 minutes. Barney, James Fisher-Harris, and the Yappy brothers.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of them has to start. It was a bad. And actually weirdly, I just keep trying to think about why. Like the numbers look different, and I was like, why is it a why? And I just couldn't. It just didn't draw me. I was like, and then I was like, we don't have a lock.
Yeah. I think we lost our nerve a little bit, selection wise. We had a plan. Like we basically started Clark in both trials and, Walker off the bench and that. And I thought, okay, this is going to be our plan. Aaron will start. Dylan will come on. And I feel like we did get just a little bit twitchy as we got closer to kickoff. And it was like, oh, let's put Barney at the back there. And it just kind of, it didn't work. It really didn't work. And I'm with you on that. Giving the, I'd start with Aaron Clark for the first bit, bring on Dylan after 20 minutes, and then just pull the levers from there. But yeah, interesting times. Plenty of food for thought as the lads make their way back over the ocean.
I wonder
Question for you guys. Sorry,
you go.
You go. Is Webster losing a little bit of his luster as the coaching savior of the Warriors? Because to your point of being a little bit gun shy about his selection for the very first game, is he lacking in a bit of confidence?
I think he's probably in a similar sort of zone to Luke Metcalf. Like, I'm happy to just lock him in as the guy for a long time and just try and he's definitely got things to improve on, and we saw that with a couple of things this week. But yeah, I'm not sort of worried about his sort of place at this stage. I think he'd be secure, but I'd like to think he'd be secure, and we can just learn and move forward pretty quickly as he said he would do. But people get a little bit impatient on those kind of things, I guess. So
yeah, I think he's going to have. We probably know, like, he's going to get to a point where he's going to have to drop some pretty, I would say seniorish players as well. And I don't want to kind of preempt anything, and like things could change. Put the same team out there, they could kick the see was asked. That'd be amazing. But like, I think he'll be tested this year where he's going to have guys like Lecker, like Dimitrik, that are going to need more time, and they're going to play, and you've got to back them. I get a sense he wants to back them as well, but he's also then trying to cram as much footy, IQ, and reps, and like kind of just everything into them. But there's points where you just got to let them go, and they've got to play. They can't play 20 minutes and 10 minutes.
yes,
Because they were the guys I was thinking. These are the only two. Once Papali'i and Tapane are off, I thought these two types of players the Raiders are going to struggle to handle, because we were struggling to handle all of them, but no one was. But our guys going at them were a little bit one-dimensional, and I mean I think I had a quick look at the stats for broken tackles and maybe an offload. That's the other thing. They killed us in second phase. We just don't do second phase. But
lots of teams don't.
Actually, I went back to maybe the previous game. Whatever I did, I just went, these guys are natural tackle busters, eh?
Yeah.
Natural second phase players with potential to offload. And it's like, man, we need that. We need to get something going.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, like you say. I mean, this has always been part of the plan for them, right? To start up the pathways and bring guys through, and now it's just a matter of working them into the mix and trying to figure out when's the right time to just give them the keys to the car. So. Interesting, very interesting times ahead, boys. Actually, I'm going to add one thing. We lost on Sunday, and I'm going to put that with our stat that we had 0 double rounds. So there we go. So if you don't do double rounds, you ain't going to get the wins. All right, simple as that. Boys, it's been fun. We're going to jump out of here slightly over time again.
Oops.
Well, that's all good. But yeah, lads, we'll catch you next week as we preview the Manly game. So nothing to get depressed about this week. Woo! But yeah, check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, of course, and check out the Warriors Anonymous online store. If you haven't already, and grab yourself some gears, and we'll keep you up to date with whatever is going to happen next week in Warrior World. Yep. Up the wires. Go the Warriors!
Oh, yeah, good.
La cucaracha ya no puede caminar.